Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. 3 weeks before my wedding, I started noticing that Lindsay was talking about David again. Not constantly. That would have been easier to confront. It was the small things. A name mentioned during dinner, a memory brought up while we were driving, a comment about how much David had changed since they broke up. I noticed because Lindsay and I had been together for 3 years, engaged for 8 months, and our wedding was already paid for. I ran a logistics company that handled freight for several regional businesses. My schedule was demanding, but I had built the company from the ground up, and Lindsay had always respected that. At least, I thought she did. One Thursday evening, she was sitting across from me at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone. "David contacted me," she said. I put my fork down. "When?" "Yesterday." "What did he want?" She hesitated. "To talk." "About what?" "Us, the past. Everything that happened." I watched her for a moment. "Are you planning to meet him?" She locked her phone. "I think I should." "No." Her eyebrows lifted. "No? You're getting married in 3 weeks. You don't meet an ex behind my back because he suddenly wants to discuss the past. He isn't asking me to get back together with him. That isn't the point." She leaned back. "You don't trust me. I trust what you've shown me. That's different." Her expression hardened. "I need closure, Charlie." "You don't need closure from another man. You need boundaries." She stood and carried her plate to the sink. "You're making this bigger than it is." "Then tell him no." She turned around. "I can't just erase 12 years of my life because I'm marrying you." That sentence stayed with me. 12 years. David had been part of her life long before I was. I stood up. "Fine. Meet him if you're determined to. But understand something. I won't marry a woman who needs to sleepwalk through her past before choosing me." Her face changed. "I never said I don't choose you." "Then don't give me a reason to question it." She didn't answer. That night, I went to bed first. Around midnight, I woke up and saw the bathroom light under the door. Lindsay was inside, speaking quietly on the phone. I couldn't hear everything, but I heard one sentence clearly. "I'll see you tomorrow." Then silence. I didn't ask who she was talking to. I already knew. Lindsay left the next afternoon around 6. She told me she was meeting David at a restaurant near the harbor. I looked up from my laptop. "How long?" "I don't know. An hour? Maybe 2. "Fine." She paused. "You're really not going to say anything?" "I already said what I had to say." She grabbed her purse. "I'll be back tonight." I nodded. "Drive carefully." She left without another word. I didn't call her. I didn't text her. I didn't sit around waiting. I finished the work I had planned, went to the gym, grabbed dinner, and came home. At 11:40, she still wasn't there. At 12:15, I went to bed. She came through the front door at 7:18 the next morning. I was already dressed and standing in the kitchen. Lindsay stopped when she saw me. "You're awake." "I've been awake." She dropped her purse onto the counter. "We need to talk." "I agree." She looked exhausted. Her makeup was gone, and her hair was tied back. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she took a breath. "I met David." "I know." "We talked for hours." "About?" "Everything." I waited. She looked down at the floor. "Charlie, I did something last night." I didn't move. "What did you do?" Her voice became quieter. "I slept with David." The room went completely still. She looked up quickly. "I know how it sounds." "I don't care how it sounds. I care what happened." "It happened." "Once?" She hesitated. "Yes?" I nodded. "Anything else?" "No." She stepped closer. "Charlie, I needed to know if there was anything left between us. I couldn't marry you with that question in my head." I stared at her. She wiped her cheek. "I slept with my ex last night for closure. I can be your wife now." I almost laughed, but there was nothing funny about it. "Now?" "Yes. You slept with another man last night, and this morning you're telling me you're ready to marry me. I know it sounds terrible, but I finally know what I want." "Do you?" "Yes. You." I picked up my coffee and took one sip. "Then you should have figured that out before sleeping with him." She shook her head. "You don't understand." "No, I understand perfectly." She reached for my hand. I pulled it away. "Don't." Her eyes filled. "Charlie, please." I looked directly at her. "The wedding is canceled." Her face went pale. "What?" "You heard me." "You're serious?" "Completely." She stared at me as if she had expected anger, tears, or a fight. Instead, I walked past her and picked up my phone. The first call I made was to the wedding venue. The wedding coordinator answered on the second ring. "Good morning. This is Amanda. This is Charlie. I need to cancel our wedding." There was a pause. "Your wedding is in 3 weeks, correct?" "That's right. Is everything okay?" "No, I'm ending the engagement." Lindsay was standing behind me, staring at the phone. "Charlie, wait." I raised one hand without looking at her. Amanda asked for my confirmation details. I gave them to her, then asked her to send the cancellation terms to my email. When the call ended, Lindsay stepped in front of me. "You actually canceled it?" "Yes. You didn't even give me a chance to explain." "You explained." "That wasn't an explanation. That was me telling you what happened." "And that was enough." She shook her head. "You're throwing away 3 years over one mistake." I looked at her. "You keep calling it one mistake because that's easier than admitting what it was." "What was it?" "A decision." Her eyes narrowed. "I made a bad decision." "You made it after I told you exactly where I stood." She opened her mouth, but I continued. "You knew we were getting married. You knew how I felt about David. You went anyway. You stayed with him all night. Then you came home and told me you were ready to be my wife. I was trying to make sure I could give you everything. You gave another man something that was supposed to belong inside this marriage." Her face tightened. "That doesn't mean I love him." "I never said you did." "Then why are you doing this?" "Because I don't marry women who need another man to confirm they want me." She stared at me. "You're being cruel." "No, I'm being clear." She grabbed her purse and threw it onto the couch. "So that's it? 3 years just disappear?" "No, 3 years happened. I'm not pretending they didn't." "Then fight for us." I shook my head. "You're asking me to fight for something you were willing to risk." She went quiet. I walked into the bedroom and started packing the few things I needed for the week. I wasn't leaving the house. I wasn't running away. I simply needed space while we figured out the living arrangement. My phone rang. It was Mike, my closest friend and business partner. "You sound busy," he said. "I canceled the wedding." There was silence. "Do you need me to come over?" "Yes, bring the folder with the venue contracts. I want every cancellation fee documented." "You're already handling it?" "I've made the decision. Now I'm cleaning up the consequences." When I hung up, Lindsay was standing in the doorway. She had heard everything. For the first time that morning, she looked afraid. Not of losing the wedding, of losing me. Mike arrived an hour later with the wedding folder. I spread the contracts across the dining table while Lindsay sat across from me. She hadn't spoken much since the call. Mike looked at her, then at me. "Do you want me here?" "Yes." Lindsay crossed her arms. "You're treating me like I'm on trial." "No," I said. "I'm making sure nothing gets missed." Mike opened the folder. "The venue will return most of the deposit. The catering company keeps a cancellation fee. The photographer is willing to transfer the date to another client." I nodded. "Handle whatever can be recovered." Lindsay suddenly said, "You don't have to destroy everything." I looked at her. "The wedding is canceled. The contracts are just paperwork." She looked away. Mike continued sorting through the contracts while I opened our shared laptop. I needed to check one of the vendor payments. An email notification appeared in the corner of the screen. "Hotel Harborview, reservation confirmed." I clicked it. The reservation was in Lindsay's name. 2 nights. Check-in that evening. I looked at her. "You told me you were meeting David for dinner." "I changed my plans." "You booked a hotel?" She didn't answer. "Lindsay." "Yes." Mike stopped sorting the papers. I kept my voice calm. "When did you book it?" "A week ago." That answer told me more than anything else she had said. "You planned this for a week?" "I didn't know what would happen." "Then why book 2 nights?" She looked frustrated. "I needed somewhere to stay if things got complicated." "You live here." She said nothing. I turned the laptop toward her. "You told me last night happened because you needed closure." "It did." "No, you prepared for it." Her eyes filled with tears. I was confused. "About marrying me?" She nodded. "How long?" She hesitated. "A few weeks." Mike stood. "I'll give you 2 some privacy." "No," I said. "Stay." Lindsay looked at me. "You want the truth?" "I've wanted the truth since yesterday." She swallowed. "I started talking to David again 6 weeks ago." I felt my jaw tighten. 6 weeks. He contacted me first. And you kept answering. Yes. Did you tell him about the wedding? She didn't respond. Lindsay. Yes. What did he say? He asked if I was happy. And what did you tell him? She looked down. I said I didn't know. Mike slowly closed the folder. I stood up. That changes everything. Lindsay immediately stepped toward me. Charlie, wait. I shook my head. You didn't make one mistake last night. She started crying. You spent 6 weeks deciding whether I was good enough to marry after you already accepted my proposal. I closed the laptop. The wedding is canceled. I looked her directly in the eyes. There's nothing left to discuss. She stared at me, waiting for something else. I said nothing. Lindsay didn't leave that afternoon. Instead, she sat at the kitchen table for nearly an hour, staring at the floor while Mike finished sorting the wedding contracts. Eventually, she looked at me. David doesn't want me back. I said nothing. He told me last night that he isn't ready for a relationship. I leaned against the counter. And I realized I made a huge mistake. You realized it because he rejected you. No, I waited. She wiped her eyes. I realized it when I came home and saw you. I shook my head. You're still making this about what you want. What do you want me to say? The truth. She stood. I want you. You had me. I know. Then you should have remembered that before you went to him. She stepped closer. I can fix this. No. Charlie, please. No. Her expression hardened. You're not even going to try? I already tried. You made your choice. She turned away, then suddenly said, David told me something else. I looked at her. What? He said I shouldn't marry you. Mike looked up from the paperwork. Why? Lindsay shook her head. He said if I could sleep with him before my wedding, I wasn't ready to marry anyone. I almost smiled. Finally, he said something useful. Lindsay stared at me. There's something else you need to know. What? She looked down. I told David that if he wanted me back, I would leave you. I stared at her. You told him that before you went to see him? She nodded. Yes. That was the first thing she had said all day that genuinely surprised me. I reached for my phone. I'm calling him. Lindsay immediately grabbed my wrist. Don't. I pulled my hand free. Why? Because there's nothing to gain. That isn't your decision anymore. I called the number she had given me. David answered. I introduced myself. There was a long silence. Then he said, I figured you'd eventually call. Did Lindsay tell you she would leave me? Yes. Did she tell you she was marrying me in 3 weeks? Yes. Mike looked at me. David continued. She said she wasn't sure she'd go through with it. I looked at Lindsay. Her face had gone completely white. I thanked David and ended the call. Lindsay whispered, Charlie. I held up my hand. You wanted closure. I picked up the wedding folder. You got it. Then I walked into the bedroom and closed the door. By Monday morning, the wedding was officially canceled. There were still contracts to settle, deposits to recover, and vendors to notify. But the date was gone. So was the engagement. Lindsay moved into her sister's apartment across town. I didn't ask her to leave immediately, and I didn't throw her belongings outside. I gave her 2 days to pack everything she needed. On the second evening, her father, Richard, came to the house. I opened the door. Charlie. Richard. He looked uncomfortable. Can we talk? Sure. He stepped inside and saw the boxes stacked near the hallway. Lindsay told us what happened. I assumed she would. She says you canceled the wedding without giving her a chance. I looked at him. She slept with her ex 3 weeks before marrying me. Richard's expression changed. She told me it was for closure. That was her explanation. He was quiet for a moment. Did she tell you she had been talking to him for 6 weeks? He stared at me. No. Did she tell you she booked a hotel before meeting him? His jaw tightened. No. Did she tell you she told him she would leave me if he wanted her? Richard slowly sat down. She didn't tell us that. I know. He rubbed his forehead. After a long silence, he said, Then I understand why you canceled it. I nodded. I never wanted your daughter humiliated. I know. I wanted to marry her. That's why I took the relationship seriously. Richard looked toward the boxes. She made a terrible decision. She made several. He stood. I won't defend what she did. Thank you. Before leaving, he stopped at the door. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. After he left, Lindsay called. I answered. You spoke to my father. Yes. What did he say? He understands. She was silent. Charlie, I want to come home. You don't live here anymore. I mean, I want to come back to you. I closed my eyes for a second. No, you can't just throw away everything. I didn't. Then what did you do? I stopped a wedding that shouldn't happen. Her voice broke. I love you. I believe you. Then why isn't that enough? Because love isn't the only thing required to build a marriage. She didn't answer. I ended the call. For the first time since this started, there was nothing left to argue about. 6 weeks after the wedding was canceled, Lindsay asked me to meet her at a quiet cafe near the marina. I almost declined. Then I agreed. Not because I wanted to restart anything. I wanted the ending to be clear. She was already sitting in the corner when I arrived. She looked different, less polished, less certain. Thank you for coming, she said. I sat across from her. You have 20 minutes. She gave a small, sad smile. You always did like making things simple. I don't have anything left to complicate. She looked down at her coffee. I thought you would fight for me. I did. When? Every day before you decided to sleep with David. She shook her head. I mean after. I thought you would get angry, say things you didn't mean, then come back. I wasn't interested in doing that. Why? Because you already made your decision. I was confused. You were. She looked up. But I chose you in the end. No. Her eyes narrowed. I chose myself, I said. You were trying to decide between two men. I wasn't going to stand there waiting for the result. She swallowed. I never meant to hurt you. I know. Do you hate me? No. That seemed to hurt her more than anger would have. I wish you did. Why? Because then I could tell myself you were cruel. I leaned back. But I'm not. She nodded slowly. Did you ever really love me? Yes. Her eyes filled. Then how can you walk away so easily? I didn't walk away easily. She waited. I walked away decisively. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she reached into her purse and placed a small box on the table. I recognized it immediately. Her engagement ring. You should have this, she said. I looked at the box. You're giving it back? She nodded. It's yours. I picked up the box and opened it. The ring caught the light. I thought you'd keep it. I can't. I closed the box and put it inside my jacket. Lindsay looked at me one last time. So that's it? Yes. No chance? No. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Then she stood. Goodbye, Charlie. Goodbye, Lindsay. I watched her walk out. I didn't follow her. I didn't call her back. There was nothing left to say. 4 months later, my life had settled into a routine I hadn't expected. Work was better. My logistics company had landed 2 new clients, and I was spending more time at the warehouse instead of constantly checking my phone to see whether Lindsay had called. Mike noticed the difference before I did. You look rested, he said one morning. I am. Still glad you canceled? I looked at him. Every day, he laughed. You know what the strange part is? What? The wedding date came and went. I had almost forgotten. That Saturday, I drove past the hotel where Lindsay and I were supposed to have our reception. The parking lot was full. People were dressed up. Cars were lined along the entrance. Music was coming from inside. I stopped at the traffic light and watched for a few seconds. Then I drove on. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel like I had escaped some terrible fate either. I simply knew I had made the right decision. That evening, I found the old wedding folder in a drawer. Inside were contracts, receipts, seating arrangements, and the canceled reservation. At the very bottom was a handwritten note Lindsay had given me months earlier. It said, I can't wait to become your wife. I read it once. Then I folded it and put it back. Her words had been true when she wrote them. That was the part I'd finally accepted. People can mean something when they say they love you and still make a choice that destroys your trust. The problem wasn't that Lindsay had a past. It wasn't even that David came back. The problem was that she wanted to know whether she still wanted him while already planning to marry me. And after sleeping with him, she came home and told me she could be my wife now. I almost smiled at the absurdity of it. She thought the night with David had given her closure. It gave me mine. I never needed revenge. I never contacted David again. I never told our friends every detail. I simply canceled the wedding and walked away. Months later, when someone asked why I never got married, I gave the same answer every time. I was engaged once. What happened? I would shrug. She needed closure with someone else. Then I'd change the subject. Because the truth was simple. Lindsay wanted to know whether she could choose me after choosing another man. I didn't wait for the answer. I made my own choice. And that was the wedding I never regretted canceling. Thank you for watching.